Ravens flock. The flock rundown is the place to be. My man Ryan has been a lifelong Ravens fan since he was born. So I'm telling you now, it's about to go down. The podcast, the flock rundown. Ravens, baby. Nothing gets better than waking up and wondering how high we can fly. Tune in.
Motionless brainwaves attempt to swim their way to sense, can't tame the untamed.
Appreciate you, Ray. What's up, Ravens fans? My name is Ryan, and welcome back to another episode of the Flock Rundown. Man, what a crazy start to the regular season. Just a wild week one. So many injuries, so many great quarterbacks that had terrible games, so much rust across the entire NFL. Watching that Jets game last night, and prayers up for Aaron Rodgers, man. Prayers to the Jets fans. I mean, I can't even imagine the feeling that they're going through, having so much hope for that season, and then that happens a few plays into the game, and then Aaron Rodgers, man, just dedicating himself to move to a new team, and man, that sucks, man. Injuries suck. We were just dealing with the J.K. Dobbins news, and that stung and still stings right now. I'm still processing the J.K. Dobbins is out for the entire season, but I couldn't imagine it being the quarterback, especially to an Achilles injury. It's just awful, but so many injuries across the league in week one, and just so much terrible play. Josh Allen did not look good at all last night. Joe Burrow looked terrible. Justin Herbert looked good, but they lost. Mahomes looked solid, but they lost. I mean, it's just, all these elite teams lost in week one, and it just puts it in perspective for me. I was watching that game last night and just thinking about the entire week one of the regular season as a whole, and it really just put in perspective that the Ravens are not in that bad of a spot. We still have everything in front of us. I know we've already dealt with some injuries, and we're dealing with some injuries. There's no doubt about that. But a lot of those guys are going to return. Marlon Humphrey's going to return. Ronnie Stanley's going to return. Tyler Linderbaum's going to return. Maybe Marcus Williams is going to return, even though I know we're probably without him for most of the regular season. But so many other teams are dealing with losses and struggles of their own. And, it just put it in perspective that we still have an incredible chance. The league is wide open. There is no unbeatable team, even though the AFC is stacked. The AFC looks less stacked after week one, right? And I know the Bengals and the Chiefs and the Bills will still be contenders, but they are not without flaws. Those teams have a lot of flaws. And maybe their offensive play is a little bit more proven, especially in the postseason, but then there's some flaws on the defense for the Bengals. The Bills don't look the same. The Bills don't look great at all. I think that there's some weird riff going on in there. I don't want to read too much into that this early. It is only week one. But Josh Allen looked terrible. And all the drama with Stephon Diggs in the offseason and things like that. The Chiefs don't have a ton of receivers or many talented receivers at all. They're not without flaws either. Every team has flaws. Every team is missing some pieces or has some holes on their roster somewhere. And one thing we were really hyping up in the offseason is that the Ravens didn't have a lot of holes. Cornerback, I would say, was our biggest hole and still kind of is, but we're getting Marlon Humphrey back pretty soon. Probably not this week, but within the next few weeks, Marlon Humphrey's going to come back, and that's huge. That's going to lift our cornerback room tremendously. And Marcus Williams is a huge loss, yes, but every team has holes on their roster. We had one of the most complete rosters coming in. We lost a few guys, but a lot of them are returning. And there's just no team in the entire NFL without issues. You know what I mean? And the rust that we saw from our offense that we were kind of reading into a lot and disappointed in, the debut of the offense and the struggles with the offensive line. All the top teams had struggles. You know what I mean? Like, there's no team that is ready to go and win a Super Bowl right now. And we don't know how these teams are going to build week after week either. We got to let this regular season play out a little bit more. Obviously, we have to stay healthy. We can't lose key players. But I'm just saying there's so much hope for this season, for this team, and for our Super Bowl chances. I do not think that that's over by any means. I don't want to overreact to week one in any type of way. I don't want to overreact to what we saw from Baltimore. I don't want to overreact to what we saw from the rest of the league and all these elite teams in the AFC that looked absolutely terrible in week one. But I'm just saying, it's wide open. There's no reason for us to sit here and be like, man, we just got the injury bug again. It's just killing us. We have no chance now. You know, I see so much doom and gloom. And trust me, I share some of that initially too. You know what I mean? I in my past few videos talking about these injuries, I've been a little doom and gloom. I have been. It sucks. And that's just, a lot of that has been the way the past 2 seasons have went. If we would have been healthy the past 2 seasons and then we're dealing with what we're dealing with now, it would have been like, okay, this is normal. It's kind of normal. Every team has things like this. But after going through the last 2 years where Lamar couldn't finish the season and we've just been absolutely decimated with injuries and had no chance, we're limping into the playoffs. You know, when we start to see the injuries pile up again, it just brings back those old memories. But that doesn't mean that that's how this season's going to finish. That doesn't mean that Lamar's not going to be there in the playoffs this year. I think we have as good of a chance as any team in the entire AFC to make the playoffs. I'm very high on this team still. There's no reason to be doom and gloom. Yeah, the offensive line is banged up right now, and we're going to have to make some adjustments. Shout out to Cole Jackson. He has an incredible breakdown of our pass protection in the game on his Road Graders YouTube channel, so go check that out. I'll put the link in the description and tag him on Twitter as well. But I was watching that this morning, and it really gave me confidence in our pass protection and the ability for Todd Monken to make in-game adjustments. Last year, or the last few years, we were really mad at Greg Roman, and honestly, I was just confused because he refused to adjust in the game or much at all, to be honest. You know, when things weren't working, we just didn't see a lot of adjustments. We didn't see a lot of counters to what the defense is bringing. But we adjusted mid-game. Todd Monken made adjustments, brought Ricard to the offensive line, added some check down routes so Lamar could get the ball out of his hand a lot faster when that blitz was coming. And some of those blitzes that got through and Lamar had no time early in the first half was just purely because the line didn't know the snap count. Tyler Linderbaum snapped the ball, Lamar's dropping back, the other half of the offensive line didn't even move, and the Texans are bringing 5-6 blitzers. They go right through because the line didn't know the snap count. And those mistakes are rust and lack of chemistry from not playing in the preseason and it being week one, you know? And we look at that and we're like, oh, the offensive line is playing terrible. And you can say that at a surface level. But when you dive in and look at the specific plays, you realize that, oh, no, they just didn't know the snap count on that play. And everyone came through and it looked like our line sucks. You know what I mean? But when you look at it, it's just like, oh, it was a simple mistake. And you can look at each individual lineman and they all made mistakes. You know what I mean? Lamar made mistakes. Everybody made mistakes. And it's week one. And especially for us, it's week one because we didn't play any starters in the preseason. And then a lot of our key guys, including Lamar Jackson, hasn't played football in almost a year. Harbaugh was talking yesterday in the press conference about the NFL needing to change the ramp-up period in some way. And right now, as it stands, since we didn't play our starters and a lot of teams didn't play their starters, these first few weeks of the regular season, it's kind of like the new preseason. It's weird to say, and I know a lot of backups aren't playing, and it's not the same environment by any means, and these games actually count, and there's more weight on them. But teams are not ready. Teams are not ready. They're not playing playoff football. You know what I mean? This is sloppy. If you watched a lot of the games across week one, it's a lot of sloppiness, a lot of errors, a lot of mistakes, a lot of bad quarterback play, a lot of bad offensive line play. And the Ravens are no different. We made a lot of mistakes too, but that's just going to improve. You know what I mean? And I loved that we made adjustments at halftime. We were having a lot of pass protection issues and couldn't pick up the blitz. So what do? We add some check down routes. Lamar can get the ball out of his hands really fast. Have Zay Flowers run a quick 5 and out, and Lamar can get the ball out of his hands real fast if the pressure's in his face, or the running back out in the flat, or the running back running a Texas route, or the tight end running a drag route just coming across the middle just underneath, so Lamar can just let the ball go if that pressure, if they are bringing a lot of blitz and the line can't pick it up. I mean, these are just simple things, but they can change everything. You know what I mean? We don't always have to just have Lamar sit back there and try and look downfield for the big play. And some of that's on Lamar, too. You know, he's got to make the smart decisions. He obviously did force that throw early in that game and threw that interception. But he was under pressure. There was a lineman right in his face. Now, should he throw the ball away or just take the sack? Yes. But I'm sure he learned from that. He's watching film too. And these are just things that we're going to grow from week by week. The team's going to get better, especially this offense. It's brand new. But I was happy with the in-game adjustments. In-game adjustments are necessary. They're crucial. Something might not always work to plan in the first half. You come in with a game plan, sure, but what if it goes wrong? What if it's not working? Well, at halftime or sooner, you got to start changing things up. You got to counter to what the defense is bringing you. And we did do that in that Texans game. And that just gives me a lot of confidence, man. I feel great about where we're at and where we're headed. Now, obviously, we got to stay healthy, but I could say that for every single team in the league. The Chiefs can't lose Mahomes. The Bengals can't lose Burrow. The Bills can't lose Allen, whatever, you know what I mean? Like, yeah, we can't lose Lamar, sure, for sure, obviously. We've lost him the last 2 seasons. I'm not expecting that stuff to happen. Can it? Yeah, it's football. Anything can happen. There's a ton of injuries happening right now. It's been a rough start to the NFL this season with injuries. And I've seen a ton of negativity from Ravens fans after this week 1. And I understand. I'm not arguing your point either. You know what I mean? The injuries suck. And it's a reminder of what we've been going through the last few seasons. We've not been able to roll out a healthy squad, at least with our key players, you know, most of the season and into the playoffs. We just haven't had that. And we haven't been able to see this complete offense. And now we're not going to without J.K. Dobbins. We're never going to see what J.K. and Mark and Odell and Bateman and Zay and Lamar all look like together. We're never going to see it. But it's all right. Doesn't mean that we're going to have a bad offense. You know what I mean? Does it suck? Sure. But life's not perfect. You know what I mean? Nothing ever goes exactly how you want it to go. Very rarely does that happen. But that doesn't mean that it's over. You think when the Ravens won the Super Bowl in 2012, that season was just going smooth? I'm just saying no season's ever perfect. No season's never without growing pains and without a roller coaster ride. And sure, we're already on the roller coaster ride. We had a lot of injury news, terrible injury news in week 1, but we got a win. We got a comfortable win. Although it be against a young Houston Texans team, I get it. I'm excited to see what we look like against the Bengals. But I think this team's got a lot of fight, and I think our offense is only going to get better. We're going to be able to score more and more points. And it's not like the Bengals have some stout defense that I'm worried about. Their secondary is also very vulnerable. They lost their safeties to free agency. So our offense can score points. And our run game is still going to be solid. We have great run blocking. Our offensive line is incredible at run blocking, and we have a great scheme as well. We're still bringing a lot of unique concepts to the run game, and I still trust Gus Edwards and Justice Hill, and we'll see how Melvin Gordon looks. I'm sure he's ready to go. We get Keaton Mitchell back in a few weeks. We could always add another guy if it's not working. Running backs are available. You know, they're not impossible to go get. There's still Kareem Hunt out there on free agency. There's options, you know, and I'm not worried that our run game is just going to be awful. Is it going to be more of a running back by committee? Yeah. You know, we're not going to see a bell cow J.K. Dobbins workload, but that's fine. Our run game is still going to be successful, and our pass game is only going to get more and more successful as the weeks go, and especially when Mark Andrews comes back. I think Mark Andrews will play this week. He might not, but if not, then he's definitely back next week. Regardless, we have a lot of key guys coming back. Marlon Humphrey, Mark Andrews, Ronnie Stanley, Tyler Linderbaum are not out long term. Maybe the next few weeks at most. So there's still a lot of hope for this season. I'm still super high on this team, and I just want to shoot a dose of positivity to the Ravens fan base because it's not doom and gloom. Look across the entire NFL. Every fan base is kind of freaking out. There's only a few that are like, everything's going right now. And trust me, not everything will go right. 6 weeks from now, something's going to happen to that team. You know what I mean? And you know, there's a couple teams that just rode high in week 1, right? Like the Dolphins are riding high with Tua and Tyreek. But they lost Jalen Ramsey in the offseason. There's just always something going on with every team and every fan base. And I was just reminded by that when I sat last night and just watched that Aaron Rodgers situation play out. And I'm like, man, the Ravens are not in an awful situation right now. Like, we still have everything in front of us. We can still win a Super Bowl 1,000%. Every team has flaws across the NFL. The Ravens are no different, and the Ravens have just as good of a chance as anybody to bring the Lombardi home, and I still think they will. But yeah, that's it. My rant's over. I appreciate you guys tuning in to another episode of the Flock Rundown. Have a beautiful rest of your day, and I'll talk to you guys next time.
Motionless brainwaves attempt to swim their way to sense, can't tame the untamed.